Welcome to Flip Your Lid with Kim Honeycutt. Kim is a psychotherapist and executive director of ICU Talks, a mental health speaking ministry. This is a podcast about how to flip your lid and learning how to reconnect to who you really are.
Well, thank you, Flip Your Lid audience, for being here today. I always say that we have a really big deal sitting in front of me through this Zoom call, but I really mean it today. I have two beautiful doctors in front of me who have changed the image, the picture, the face of couples therapy. And so let me tell you a little bit about Dr. Harville Hendrix and his beautiful wife, Dr. Helen LaKelly Hunt. They are both co-creators of the Imago Relationship Therapy and a social movement called Safe Conversations. They are internationally respected as couples therapists, educators, speakers, activists, and New York Times best-selling authors. There are 10 books, including the timeless classic, Getting the Love You Want, A Guide for Couples, has sold more than 4 million copies. Y'all, my book sold 4 copies. They're sold 4 million copies. And Harville appeared on the Oprah Winfrey Show 17 times, and Helen was installed in the Women's Hall of Fame and the Smithsonian Institute. That is a big deal. They have 6 children and 7 grandchildren. So, Dr. Hendrix, Dr. Hunt, thank you both for blessing our audience with your wisdom. Thank you for being here.
Well, we are honored to be here, and thank you for having us and for your kind words.
Well, y'all are tremendous, and I want to tell you, the first time I saw you, Dr. Hendrix, was, I don't even know how old it was, but I was watching Oprah, and you were on there, and you were talking about the Imago theory, and I went out and got this book at that time, Getting the Love You Want, because I was a baby therapist and new into this field. And as y'all know, couples therapy is not something that goes well. It's not the most efficient form of therapy in this world. And so this changed how I thought and how I saw myself and other people. So thank y'all so much for writing this. So thank you for being here. So here's the thing. We start off with the same question with everybody. And so y'all can share whatever you want, but we would like to know a little bit about you. So tell us, and Dr. Hunt, we're going to go with you first. Helen, we're going with you first. All right. So what flipped your lid? What life experience, what life events flipped your lid that caused you to have to really question who you are? And then tell us a little bit about what helped you reconnect to who you actually are.
So I requested to go first.
Yes, you did.
Because I'm afraid I'm a lid flipper. And so I have a couple. So the first time I flipped my lid.
A new picture of you as a lid flipper.
Can you figure out the date? But Harville and I had just started dating. And he had been asked to do a talk. He was beginning to do talks on relationship. And this guy had a group of people come every Sunday to a garage. I think it was something like a Unitarian church, but they didn't want to meet in the Unitarian church there. They had their own group. It was about 40 people. There was a green board, great big green chalkboard. And Harville stood up. What year was that?
Probably 1977 or 78, somewhere.
And so I'm sitting there and go, okay, I want to hear what Harville has to say. And he said, "Hi, everybody. Most people don't realize that a relationship has 3 stages." And he went up to the chalkboard and he drew a chalk line. And he said, "Stage 1, romance." Then he went and drew another line. And he said, "Now, stage 2, the power struggle." So everyone falls in love, or whoever does fall in love, stage 1, they need to know that they're going to end up in the power struggle. And then he drew this, he pointed to the next space and said, after the power struggle, there's stage 3, and that's real love. And everyone who gets in the power struggle can get to real love. Well, I flipped my lid.
There you go.
So I decided that I had my first husband. I was in a business family. This business guy wanted to marry me. I married him. It was a horrible marriage. And I said, I wanted to be a therapist, and I was getting a master's in counseling psych. And later on went to pursue a doctorate in psychology.
Mm-hmm.
And I was very interested in psychology. And I thought, maybe he's the one I should propose to. I had told everyone, okay, if you're going out with me, don't even think of proposing. I'm going to propose to the next person.
I like you.
And the first person sort of was after me to get married. And I think it was because of the family money.
Right.
And because he went to work at the family. And I don't want to be married to a family. I want to be married to someone who's a great thought partner for me.
Yeah.
So I proposed to Harville and he said yes. And so we moved to New York and the book got written and Oprah called and he went on a show and she took his show and submitted it to the Emmy committee. And that won Oprah her first Emmy. Give me 5.
Wow, I did not know. That's amazing.
Practically no one knows that. So she fell in love. Of course, she had already fallen in love with Harville as a host. She submitted his show and she had him on 17 times. So everything is great. Great, great, great.
Right.
His 2, I adored. I had 2, he adored. We had 2 together, the Brady Bunch. We were going to have the best happy family.
Right.
I flipped my lid again. Everyone liked each other when we were dating, but then when we married, everyone started back talking and being negative, and it was the blended family from hell.
Yeah.
And I kept dragging Harville to therapists. Thank God New York has so many therapists, really good therapists. But we were smarter than any of them, and we kept firing the therapists. We thought,
sure.
That's not going to help us. And like you said, couples therapy sucks. Right?
Yes, it sucks. Thank you for saying it so clearly.
I said, we're smarter than this one. With the 5th one we went to fired us and said we were the family from hell.
That's
So
awesome.
then we went to the divorce lawyer and we announced to our family we were divorcing. Now this was really flipping my lid.
Yes.
And then we announced to the whole Imago community we were divorcing. And I thought, I can't believe this is happening twice. And I thought it was the nadir of my life. So I was really flipped my lid. Well, the good news that made me flip my lid in a positive way was we added a few things to the theory and we decided not to get divorced. And I had the marriage of my dreams.
Wow.
So that's my story. And
thank you.
Anyone of my message to people these days is, don't ever give up hope. Don't
Amen. Amen.
That it's negative only. It's negative for a while, but listen to what she says. You can flip your lid and get back.
Right. That's right. Yeah. Thank you for being so personal about that. I know as therapists, people's expectations of us are incredibly too high. And to come out being such leaders in the world of couple therapy and to have to say we're divorcing, that how vulnerable that is. And thank you for sharing that and that y'all persevered.
And a last comment. Thank you that you're open about your Christian faith.
Thank you.
It just, Jesus flipped his lid.
That's right.
After the crucifixion.
Yes, it's true.
He resurrected. And we have a faith that it really validates what she is saying.
Yeah.
And we really think she's a genius for having a podcast like this.
Well, thank you for that.
I thought you were going to say about Jesus that he would have said, what? You're going to nail me to the cross?
Right.
and then what? I'm risen from the dead.
Well,
so, anyway.
and he said that on the cross. He said, Father, why have you forsaken me?
Yeah, that's right.
That his father was going to help.
Yeah.
So don't ever, his father did come through. And
it's so beautiful. No, really, it's beautiful. This knowing that Jesus' lid was flipped and that he reconnected to who the Father says he was so that we can do the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amen. Yes.
So I was
want to top that?
You can't, Harville. You can't.
Well, I think
They're very competitive.
So you're wondering if I can top that, and you're also thinking that we're competitive.
I mean, it was a joke.
Am I getting that? And that was a joke.
I was trying to be funny.
And you were trying to be funny.
Was I funny? Maybe not.
No.
Okay.
If you want to be honest.
How about if I don't talk?
What if you don't talk?
Time, your time.
Okay, I'll take my time. Well, I think what's occurring to me about this, because I hadn't thought much about it until this morning, which is like how our life goes. I don't get to think about things until it's 30 minutes away sometimes.
Right.
Is obviously all of these events I went through with Helen and had the opposite flip lidding. And I think that specifically, I remember being at our New Mexico ranch and discovering there that you wanted a divorce. And that we would move back from New Mexico to New York and facilitate that. So that was I guess flipping your lid is a shock and a reaction to that.
Mm-hmm.
And that the recovery of that was in 1999 that we recovered from that and celebrated a recommitment. I had a big New Year's Eve party, which is we consider our official wedding was not 1982, but 1999.
It's beautiful.
And so that we actually spend more time celebrating our recommitment than we do celebrating our original marriage, because that marriage itself
sucked.
The marriage before we had a fight, right afterwards we had a fight. The honeymoon was nothing but a fight. I think one of the things is how we stayed married and how we are still married after now 45 years of knowing each other and 38 of them married is a mystery. And I guess if we looked at it, we could see that there was something. And Helen says that we have a destiny together. So I suppose if we have a destiny together, no matter how bad it gets, we can't leave, because we have a destiny. And maybe the destiny is to suffer together so that we have a story to tell. Because I often wonder about that. But I have another, a different lid flipping. I think my biggest lid flip, no, that would put it in a valuative state, but probably formative, that made the lid flipping with you're indicating in, I think it was 1996 that you indicated you wanted a divorce. That's when we were living in New Mexico. And that was about 18 or 19 years into our marriage, because we took about 2 years to work that through. But the preceding lid flip that came to my mind when you asked this question was when I was 6 years old and came out of a room, and we lived as sort of dirt farmers in South Georgia. And I came out of my room and saw that my mother was being dragged down the hallway to her bedroom. And they told me that she had a stroke and that she was, so that, and in fact, that wiped out all the other memories of my mother. I have no memories of my mother other than her dying.
Wow.
I'm sure that worked because I was 6 years old, and all my brothers and sisters are pretty normal people. So she was probably a good person and was a good mother. But called flipping your lid in the sense that you're suddenly faced with an intolerable and inconceivable moment, which is to watch your mother die. And then in South Georgia, they have this thing, I don't think they ever think about it, but that you must view the dead. So they put her on what they call a cooling board, which was a door they took down in the house and laid her out until the undertaker came. And they took me in the next morning. They put me to bed the night before. And they took me in the next morning and said, would you like to see your mother? And I remember going in to look at her body, and touched her and felt the coldness. And that was, again, one of those indelible memories. I've been doing, you don't know this because I haven't caught you up with my reading recently, on memory. Mm-hmm. What triggers memory is the intensity of the affect that occurs at the moment. And then what do you associate with that?
Right.
So I would say that was a primal lid flip.
Yes.
That made me then vulnerable to any other flip where somebody was going away.
Yeah.
And that Helen's saying that she wanted a divorce would have triggered that, made that traumatizing. And probably without, although we didn't use our skill well, which was why we were getting a divorce. We didn't use what we knew.
Right.
The book, and it had helped thousands of other people, but we weren't practicing. But probably it was some knowledge that there was a way, and that we had in fact created it and written a book about it. Was a resource to sort of flip the lid again, is that we actually made it, and we had this celebration. I remember there were 256 people at that celebration. It was on New Year's Eve. So when we kept the party going until midnight, and it was also on a place that was on the river, on the Hudson River, which is where they fired there was a big barge that New York City used to fire off the firecrackers. So that came right over our place, and we said to everybody that we arranged the New York City to celebrate our recommitment. So when they all come out and look at it. So we got a free celebration by the whole city of New York.
Well played.
So it's kind of again, and it was a powerful association of a celebrative moment at a time when we had recovered. Mm-hmm. So those are my, and I guess the other lid flip was a positive one was, what? I'm getting invited on the Oprah show?
Oh, I bet. That's huge.
And that and here's another indelible memory. I was in the car, which was an Oprah chauffeured car on the way back to the airport. And it wasn't a taxi. It was an official Oprah car, because it had a phone behind me. It could have been a rental. I mean, maybe a car, but anyway, it wasn't a taxi.
Right.
Taxi driver. It was their driver taking me back to the airport, and the phone rang behind me. I was in the back seat, and the phone was up on the shelf behind me. This was before cell phones, so this was a wired car phone. And I said to the driver, I assume this is ringing up there, and that this is for you. And he said, "Oh no, if it rings back there, it's for you." Uh-huh. Oh, so I pick up the phone, and it's Oprah's executive producer who had produced the show saying, "Oprah and I have just met. I just left the studio 15 minutes early. We've just met, and we want you back."
That's amazing.
Wow. But here's what we'd like. We'd like you to come back in 9 months. We want to fully distribute this. And we're going to have a dozen couples that we will recruit in our studio. And we want you to do a 3-day workshop. And we're going to film everything. Wow. And then cut that up into a 46-minute second show, which we'll do then. And that would be in 1989. And instead of it being one show, there was so much material, they had to do 2 shows. Wow. So I had Monday and Tuesday, full 46 minutes on the Oprah show. The book then, the real lid flip was it went on the New York Times bestseller list.
That's huge.
And then I started getting calls from all over the world for training. So, but that big lid flip was, what? The Oprah show? They want me again?
Right, right.
And the New York Times bestseller. And I think the only thing I have framed of all that is that first, when it came out in New York Times, on the list.
When
New York Times bestseller.
Yeah, that's such a huge accomplishment. Harville, was there something in particular inside of you that healed when you were asked to come back, when you were met with such affirmation and positivity about your skills?
Well, at the time I wasn't aware of, being healed or anything. But as I look back, growing up on a farm, and being poor and living on the other side of the tracks, when you did move to town, you were among poor folks. Even though I went to a good school with the kids from wealthy families, I was not one of the wealthy kids, but the school took everybody. It's a 5,000 town, so the school served the whole town. I think as I look back is that I never had two senses. One, that I was smart. Never quite got it that I was smart, even though I was the runner-up for valedictorian. Because I was runner-up indicated I wasn't smart enough.
Gotcha.
I didn't get summa cum laude in college. Got magna cum laude. So I'm smart, but not that smart. And there was a prize, the Danforth Foundation Fellowship, which I didn't get. But I got a runner-up to that, which was paid tuition through graduate school, but not paid housing and food. So it was always not quite smart enough.
Right.
And therefore not quite good enough.
Yeah.
But I think that the response to the Oprah show hit me somehow, is that I began to feel something of that. You couldn't be that dumb and get this response, because the book got really high credits from people all across the spectrum, from professors all the way to the public. But also the sense of that I wasn't invisible anymore.
Yes.
So I think that's a real thing. And the thing that makes all of this really guttural for me is to also know that Helen, that there was something that evolved out of that in terms of understanding partnership with Helen. Wasn't terribly clear at the time, but as I look back at that, Helen and I became partners in initially sort of subtle ways and later in gross ways, and that Helen's contribution to all of this is indisputably at the core, not peripheral as a supportive wife, but as a partner. And somehow all of that feels like a part of a healing, of a not being alone anymore, but of being, I know we call each other partners now, and that having that was that I think is, and that it's not like she was just there enjoying my mind. Her mind was a partner mind, contributed creative ideas. Like 3 or 4 of the ideas that are core in Imago are actually Helen's ideas. And it's like, oh, that makes so much sense. I'm a logical thinker. So I take an idea and build a system out of it. And Helen, as you can see her head, we claim she doesn't build systems, but she does have insights.
Right.
And she often says, I don't come up with great ideas, but I spot them. And she often says that I was a good idea.
Yeah.
Not only as a husband, but with this idea of what actually happens in intimate relationships.
Yeah. Helen, how did you feel? Because I know you've gotten incredible accolades in your career and that you're incredibly intelligent. What was it like for you that your husband, you co-wrote the book, your husband is on Oprah and you're not there with him, but you're such a part of the book and the theory and the healing for people. Can you speak into that?
Well, yeah. Harville had offered to have my name on the cover. And I said, Harville, the Hunt name is known, and Harville Hendrix is not known. And the Hunt name was known in Texas. And I think it was known pretty well, like in New York. I have half brothers that were cornering the silver market. And my ex-husband was doing stuff and things were illegal. And anyway, so they were on the headline noons of Wall Street Journal. But would it be okay if I mentioned your dad had passed away?
Well, you just did.
Is that okay?
Let's go with that.
Not only did his mother die, but then when he was 2, his father.
Oh, actually, I was 1 when he died.
Wow.
And so and this is and he was the youngest of how many?
Oh, 12. I mean, 11.
I know.
The 11th.
And an older sibling died early. So anyway, but anyway, he was the youngest and only had his mom. And then when his mom, now, how did that feel? So I didn't mind that he was identified by Oprah.
Right.
I had stepped in, and when I heard Harville do all the theory building, I mean, I just knew from the very beginning, just like Steve Jobs in the garage, I think, we've gone back to that analogy recently, that something very special happened in that garage. But I was really happy that he went on alone. And thank you for asking that, because I am a great thought partner. He's a great speaker, and I really wanted him to have his light, his day in the sun. I was the one that when we moved to New York, found a top agent, found a top book writer who
I was going to say that.
She is,
the book wouldn't have gotten written without Helen's support of me, encouragement, but then actual contacts with people, writers and agents and so forth. So there all of that, because she was absolutely committed to this book being written and published.
Well, and there's no power struggle with this.
Well, not around that.
Not around that. Other stuff too, but there was a committed love with this. There's a real love with this.
We both love the theory, but then we weren't practicing it. But my father is known for discovering oil, and I said, Harville, and the whole world needed this oil. So Hunt Oil Company became prosperous. And I said, you're like my dad. Everyone, as you said so beautifully, everyone needs healthy relationships.
Yes.
When they don't, life sucks. I'm sorry. You use cuss words.
Yes, you can cuss.
Is suck a curse word?
No, not in Charlotte, North Carolina. It's not. That's not at all. We get much worse than that around here.
Anyway, I mean, the theory is so transformational. I am a great thought partner, but Harville creates a theory in a very special.
Do you want to share with them in like simplistic words what the theory is?
Yeah.
Okay, so why don't we start?
We
have a new definition of relationship.
Okay.
People think a relationship is 2 people who've known each other for a while or something like that, a long time. We say, and everyone needs to know who's thinking about their relationships, a relationship is 2 people and the space between them. And people go, what are you talking about? There's nothing there. Well, as Einstein said, energy is everything. And there's an energy field. And what Harville succinctly says is when there's safety in the energy field, 2 people connect.
That's right.
Now, if there's anxiety in the energy, if one of them has gotten hurt or doesn't trust what the other person is saying or feels anxious, connection is ruptured. But anyone can restore safety by doing 4 things. Number 1, dialogue. Number 2, identifying childhood wound. Number 3, a commitment to zero negativity. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. And number 4, affirmations.
Yeah.
And I won't say anything else. I send in our workshops, I do the overview, and then Harville comes in and unpacks things.
Right. Yeah.
I think the thing that I would add to that is the prologue to it. which is how do people get together anyway?
Yes.
To create this relationship.
Yeah.
And that was the first stage in theory development, was partner selection.
Mm-hmm.
So
the unconscious.
How does Helen wind up with Harville and Harville wind up with Helen, rather than with Mary, Susie, or somebody else?
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, you could wind up with Mary and Susie, but they'd have to be similar to Helen. So the theory was that there's a type of person that you'll be attracted to. And when you fall in love, you'll always fall in love with somebody who is like that. And that type of person is a person who, in important ways, resembles your caretakers.
Mm-hmm.
And in even more important ways, resembles the limits your caretakers had.
Right.
So they will be like the caretakers who did not meet your needs.
That's
and
right.
you'll fall in love with them because you're looking for the needs. Now, what didn't make sense for a long time to me was, why don't you look for somebody different from your caretakers so that you actually get those needs met? And that's where memory comes in. That memory doesn't allow you to do that. Memory is associated so that need satisfaction is associated with the caretaker with whom the need should have been met,
Right.
but wasn't. So unconsciously, then you look for that person or a prototype of that person,
Mm-hmm.
get the need met from the person who cannot meet it.
Right.
And that's what produces the dilemma.
Yes.
But you fall in love with that person because the height of the expectation is that this person who's similar to my mother and my father combined, and the particular features that didn't work
Mm-hmm.
or my childhood needs being met, will be present and in some way will be acted out by Helen. And when she does that behavior, I'll have this terrible memory, in this case, of my mother not being available.
Mm-hmm.
So Helen's not being available. She's not trying to ignore me, and she's not dying.
Right.
But she does a certain behavior in
Mm-hmm.
which she isn't available, like stays on the phone when I walk in the room.
Yes.
I can't get her attention.
Yeah.
And I know that I'm going to have a negative reaction.
Mhm.
And I made a big deal out of that for a long time until it finally dawned on me. Helen's not being my mother who's dying. Helen's talking on the phone.
Right.
It's like finally getting it that I may react to it, but it's not Helen's problem.
Right.
It's my problem.
That's right.
What I need to do is regulate how I handle when I go in the room and Helen's on the phone. And the way I found it works, I don't think I've even explained this to you as much, is to essentially see that as Helen being Helen.
Mm.
And isn't she cool? Isn't she cool?
Yeah. Yeah.
She talks like last night with Jane Fonda. She talks with Gloria Stein. I don't know who she's on the phone with, but it'll be somebody who's important, or it may be just a recent trainee
Right.
who she wants to encourage. But that's Helen being Helen. She
Right.
talks on the phone. Has nothing to do with my mother.
Mm-hmm.
And I found that has slowly removed that reactivity from my psychoneural system.
Sure.
So that's how we get together, and we recreate unconsciously the unfinished drama of childhood. We recreate
Exactly.
that in the marriage,
Mm-hmm.
and the job of marriage is to finish that drama.
Yep.
And make it come out okay. And that's where we get then to Helen saying we have to be aware we are partners in the project of co-creating the relationship of our dreams, in which the trauma of childhood won't be repeated.
Right.
We have to start behaving in a way we don't trigger those memories. And to do that, as Helen said, you have to create this. Ultimately, it has to be safe.
Mm-hmm.
It turns out to be that the most sexy thing in the world is safety.
Oh, that's so good. I love that.
Because without it, nothing else good is going to happen.
That's right. That's right.
With it, everything possible will happen.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so well said. Like, to get to the next emotional need, you can't get there without safety.
Without safety.
Yeah.
And I think this has not been known or emphasized in the mental health field much. Analysis, interpretation, exploration, understanding, change some behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
You can do all of that, but if you don't feel safe with that person, none of that is going to help you connect,
right,
and feel relaxed and joyful. Mm-hmm. You're going to be tactical, strategic, and do all kinds of things to sort of like two countries trying not to go to war.
Right.
But it won't be any fun, and it's always. Right. But when you get to safety, and you can count on safety as predictable, then you can relax into your original being of we think is called joyful aliveness. And that's our true nature, is joyful aliveness. But you don't get it, and you can't play. And that's really the highest form of play. You can't play unless you feel safe.
That's right. Yeah.
So that's theory in a nutshell.
Yeah, that's a beautiful theory, and really, it's so foundational in doing deeper therapy and trauma work with people, is understanding the safety that's necessary, and right, because without being in ventral vagal, without being safe in connection with somebody, all we do is hit repeat.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah, that's all we can do.
Yep, and so nothing needs to be done in therapy, and can be done until safety is established.
Right.
So then the question is, well, how do you do that?
Yeah.
And our answer to that is that you have to practice what we developed as the dialogue process. Because we found if we hold two people who are polarities, they are polars, in a conversation that's structured and has predictable sentence stems about how you're going to say what and next and when.
Right.
And you regulate their tone while they're talking. Ultimately, their brains, the amygdala, calms down.
Right.
Because the prefrontal cortex is working. And there are no feelings up there. So you keep people up there. And then they do something magical. They become safe enough for each other that the expectancy is that the next time we talk, it'll be like that.
Right.
It may take them a while to get the skill down, because the next time might not be like that. But at least they know they can have that experience. Then they go back and say, well, how did we do that? Well, you did it like this. When Helen talked, I said, let me see if I got that. Instead of, what in the hell did you say? Right. And I mirror it back. And then I said, am I getting this? And then I'll say, well, is there more about that? I get interested instead of, once I get it, saying, well, here's what I think about it. I stay with her experiencing herself. And that's what makes it safe for her.
That's good.
Paradoxically, that makes it safe for me.
Yeah.
So that we create for ourselves what we create for the other.
That's good.
And to me, is an amazing paradox that took us a long time to see that nuance.
Yeah.
That you can get two birds with one stone. Make it safe for one person, and it becomes safe for both.
Yeah, that's so powerful. One of the things I heard Deb Dana, who speaks a lot about polyvagal theory, say is this: intonation prior to information.
Yes.
Oh, interesting.
And I really like that. I really like the emphasis on tone, because you can't hear me. It'll change your inner ear, your ability to hear when you're in trauma. And so we'll hear each other so inaccurately. We'll hear from the place of a wounded child instead of an adult sitting there trying to be in a marriage.
Right.
And tone, and so we will also the look in someone's eye.
Yeah,
their words may not be so bad, but if they have a glare, we talk to our couples about shifting from the glare to the gaze.
That's good.
This big picture of a cat, and then a basset hound, a dog.
That's great.
These pupils are open and they're receptive, and they'd love to be hugged.
Right.
I remember hearing Stephen Porges, Deb's mentor.
Right.
Say, and the first time I heard the word prosody in a lecture, and I was on at that time, I think we're in California at the University of California. There was a interpersonal neurobiology conference that Dan Siegel was running. And Stephen was on the program, and we were on the program. So we're up on the dais, and he was giving his amazing lecture, and I understood hardly anything he said.
Right.
And so we, when he finished, some of us who did not have training in the language of the research lab that he was coming from, or in all that brain knowledge, said, Stephen, would you be willing to, and there are 2 points I want to make. Would you be willing to tell us what you said in one sentence? And he's a very great, do you know him? Have you seen him?
Yes.
Large, bearded, gray-haired, very distinguished, sort of like a Greek senator, and very gracious, said, well, of course. Then he has this, and it's called prosody. And he said, of course, it's the tone. What I'm saying is that safety is non-negotiable for mammals to thrive, including humans.
Yeah. That's amazing.
So is that what you said in that last hour? He says,
took an hour.
It took an hour. Yes. That's a theme that holds it all together.
Right.
Then I remember using the word prosody, and I wanted to know what that meant. And it was tone. Prosody is that, and like the mother says to the child, go to sleep now, little baby, don't you cry. That tone is what, and it has prosody has to do with what is the word when you regulate?
Co-regulation.
Another person's mind.
Oh, neuroception.
Yeah. And there's neuroception, and there's a kind of an integration of the two minds as well.
Yeah.
Happen prosody. It's almost like being hypnotized.
Right.
Prosody that you
and
have.
I'm
to
yawning.
do that.
I've just had 3 yawns.
And you just had 3 yawns. And I don't know if that had to do with the way I'm talking, or are you tired?
Stephen.
It's Stephen Porges.
Stephen. Oh yeah, I just love him.
Stephen
He said safety.
Yeah, just safety.
It's sort of like Einstein said, energy is everything.
Right.
So we've been talking about safety actually for about 30 years without scientific basis, because I talk about a lot of things I can't prove.
Right.
It turns out, 10 years later, somebody will prove it.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like it, but nobody has done research on it. But so we've been talking about safety for a long time. So I remember sitting on that thing saying, oh my God, here is the most credentialing statement to Imago you could imagine. I spent 40 years in a clinic proving one thing, that safety is non-negotiable for human surviving.
That's
and
right.
I can say that. I would never have to qualify that again when I will say it with an absoluteness.
Right. It's the beauty of it. Yes.
By the best mind in the country or the world.
Right. Safety is the treatment. Safety is the treatment.
Safety is the treatment. I've never said that. That's it.
Yeah.
Safety is the treatment.
And that's why one thing that saved our marriage was after everyone knew we were divorcing, we tried to do a process. I mean, we began to go, maybe we should try one more time.
No.
I came up with the concept of zero negativity, and it saved our marriage.
Yeah.
But I didn't expect Harville to take it and put it in the theory, because our process of doing zero negativity was sort of goofy. Like every day at the end of the day, we just had a calendar. And if either of us had felt any negativity, we did a frowny face. And if we made it through the day with neither of us feeling anything negative, we did a smiley face if both of us felt safe. So every day on the calendar, we had frowny face, frowny face, frowny face. Finally,
after 3 months, we got a smiley face.
Like neither of us did anything upsetting to the other. So
So that was the negativity. It wasn't necessarily your thoughts. It's more of
the
their behavior that causes a fraction or disconnection from each other.
Yeah, right.
Like I had no idea some things I was doing was negative. Like when I would tell Harville his shirt didn't look good on him. I
gotcha.
I was helping.
Yeah. Yeah, just you've always been a helper. Always.
And he goes, please don't help me.
Right.
Just leave me alone. No, just ask me questions. Finally, he told me, would you stop improving me and just ask me questions? But anyway, I never dreamed he would bring into the theory of Imago, but he did, and it's in Safe Conversations. And that's why when we say zero negativity, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. You can bring up any of your issues, that you want a divorce, that you're about to commit suicide, that you're about to shoot your partner, that you can bring up anything, but you can set up a dialogue and tell them what you're thinking.
Right.
At times.
Without making it their problem.
And not doing it with a glare in your eyes.
Yeah, I like that. I love that. And without making it your partner's problem.
Yeah. Just say, well, but the thing, okay, this is the big one. What you need to do if there is a problem, and maybe it is your partner, convert the frustration into a wish and a request.
Right.
Because we all have listed in marriages, I've got this problem with my partner, I've got that problem with my problem. And we could it's like a declaration of, we have so many problems and we can prove that they're real. Mm-hmm. But what we're not good at is learning to ask for what we want. Right. Respectfully and kindly. Yes. And your partner just do a little baby step, like help them succeed at becoming the partner that you want.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. I think I just thought of another lid flip, Helen, which is how we discovered negativity as the primary ingredient in our relationship that led us to develop the zero negativity process, which we then took from being something we were practicing to save our marriage into the Imago intellectual system. And now it's sort of the first thing we say to people. If it ain't safe, it sucks. So don't even imagine anything changing until you get to safety.
That's right.
But how we discovered that.
Shall I try?
Yeah, you want to do that?
Okay, we never tell anyone the story. We always want to. We don't have time. We found an astrology book. It was for couples, people, and you can look up.
Could I just do it on wrap? We were trying to date during the time we were separating, and we went to a bookstore.
Yeah.
As well.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
I was afraid we're going to run out of time.
Yeah. Well,
you're fine. Go ahead. You're great.
Okay.
But I love knowing that, Harville. That's great. That's great.
So we had a lunch, and we had not decided to remarry. To stay married, but we were going to have a lunch, to do good parenting or something while we were divorced. And after it was over, it was sort of a nice lunch. Neither of us fought. and I think I said, well, and you said, well, should we do anything else before we go home? And I said, oh, we could go to a bookstore because we both love that. We went to the bookstore, and instead of doing psychology and philosophy, I said, honey, why don't we go to the occult section? I'd love to learn to read your palm or something funny that we haven't ever done before. And we found this astrology book for couples. So we sat on the floor, we opened it up, and it has his birthday, and then it had my birth date. And there was a message to the couple. And first of all, his horoscope and my horoscope, it says, has the least chance of having a successful relationship. But anyway, what it said in the little box is you are about to decimate your relationship due to the unrelenting scrutiny you give to each other.
Wow.
So that was a lid flipper.
I went, that'll flip your lid.
Who has been watching us? How did they know?
Right.
This is exactly our problem.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because I saw myself in that. And so we went home and we said, well, maybe we
could say one more thing about the book.
Yeah.
We looked at other couple pairings in the book to see the same message. It's an astrology book. Good message. Give it to every couple. It was in no other couples. We were the only couple that was told that we had an unrelenting scrutiny of each other, and that we were the least likely to have a good relationship.
Wow.
Yeah,
So it's like the cosmos itself is against us. No wonder we're having a hard time.
The other couples would say, you all could take another vacation or two every year, like, or you need to hire a better accountant,
Right.
and make sure you all really have a business people in your life to manage finances, and little things like that.
Right,
And
so different.
they really, someone was watching us.
Yeah, and it's true. We did learn this from an astrology book, and I don't believe in astrology.
Right.
I don't either.
Right.
It was a
But
fun
God can use anything. God can use anything.
anything. That's right. God could use anything.
That's
And
right.
so we started saying, well, why don't we monitor that? And that's what led to the calendar, because you needed a way to keep a record. And that ultimately led to a theory. And then that theory was you got to get negativity out of your life. And then that led to raising safety up to a systemic level in the system itself. And then, but no research behind it.
Right.
Until we heard Porges say it was non-negotiable. So that's sort of how, and I think we both have a synthetic mind. I used to think I was a carnivore. I would just gather stuff everywhere and make soup out of it. Is that what you call as a carnivore, or someone who eats a lot of things? That's some other word. But anyway, you gather a lot of things from everywhere. And none of those particular things are important. But that little piece from here, that one from there, put together made this stew that became Imago Couples Therapy.
Right. And part of that is safer conversations. That's something that's within the bio that.
Right. Safe Conversations is another branch of Imago, which we call a social action branch. So Safe Conversation is not about therapy. It's taking dialogue out of therapy and inserting it into the public domain. And by public domain, we mean a third of the world's population will receive Safe Conversations training in the next 30 years. And that means 3.8 billion people.
Wow.
So it's not a therapy process, but it's an attempt to help people learn how to talk without criticizing and listen without judging.
That's good.
Beyond their differences.
That's good.
It's almost the same theory.
Well, it uses the same.
It's the same thing.
Technology.
Of the space between and the fourth.
Yes.
But it's not people who I mean, some
it's not a
people
therapy.
Definitely need to see a therapist.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, but just the idea of, especially what we've been through as a country, if people knew how to have safe conversations. Yes. What a difference that would make. And knowing that y'all have a mission that's in front of you, that you're helping people to learn how to do that in any regard.
I go to bed every night. We could prevent so much unnecessary suffering.
Yes.
That's why we appreciate someone like you who will let us
Thank you.
Tell people, look at our website because there's help and a different way to live.
Right. We don't have to remain broken. So I would love for people to stay in touch with y'all. Y'all are incredible. You're infectious. You're adorable and brilliant. You're so many beautiful adjectives. And so I want people to be able to stay in touch with you. Outside of checking out your 10 books, is there anywhere, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, your websites, what would you like people to know about y'all to stay in touch?
I think the website Harville and Helen together.com gives you access to our therapy training, which is another website, but that's a link you can get from our personal website. And we'll give you a link to safeconversations.org, which is the organization that's training people to be social activists.
And also you can just go to the Safe Conversation website, because they also, like if you want to go to the training, it's learning to do it in your life, your own life.
Right.
Also, they've got a book you can buy that talks about safe conversation for anybody.
Oh, that's great. Such great resources. Y'all are both just two walking, beautiful, Christ-following resources for all of us. And thank you for that again, for taking the time to do this and to be a part of my life.
Well,
You're stuck with me.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you, Kim.
You stuck with me.
We appreciate being stuck with you.
I like it.
It's a great honor.
It's been a very special time.
It has been special. Thank you. So to all our listeners, I know your lid got flipped And I pray that you get reconnected a little bit more to who God says you are. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening to Flip Your Lid with Kim Honeycutt. Please subscribe, rate, and share. You can find Kim on Facebook or Instagram at KB Honeycutt. To get an autographed copy of Kim's book, visit butyourmotherlovesyou.com. Remember, no matter what, treat yourself well today.